What is up, guys? Back at Destination Dallas. Today I'm here with Thomas Allen, my training partner, IFBB Pro Classic Physique.
She's arching slightly. Now, it's not a full power lifter arch, but if you drive your sternum up, you're actually stretching the pecs more.
It takes that knowing what your goal is for the session and knowing general rules about setting things up so you're still safe, you're still hitting the target muscles and still accomplishing your goals, even if it's not your normal program. We are doing a push day, so I'm gonna hit primarily shoulder focused push, kind of walk you through the different movements. We both need to work on shoulders, so that's our main goal, and we're just gonna work on kind of hitting different angles, start with some lateral raises, and then move to some pressing from there.
This is the first time I've really actually seen pros in person, besides just competing in the NPC, man. And I definitely need to put on some more size, because, you know, seeing these guys is motivating, but it lets me know how much farther I gotta go.
So we'll kind of walk you through the movements, why we choose what we do in the order that we do, and some just setup tips for different exercises. Clearly, we have very different builds, so the way that we set up exercises is going to be a little bit different, but we still have similar goals in this area, so it's kind of cool to see what translates over and then what you need to kind of make adjustments for based on your goal and your frame. Alright, we're moving on to a prime shoulder press. So similarly, you can change the way this one's loaded, so it's loaded at different points. We'll typically keep it lighter at the bottom, that's where you're going to be weakest, and then kind of load it more towards the lockout at the top, starting at first with it just being loaded more in the middle. So we're going to fill this out. This isn't where we're normally training, so when you're training somewhere you're not used to, like, you kind of got to scrap the logbook in a way. You need to be really in tune with your body, but it offers you an opportunity to kind of reconnect with muscles in a different way, because you're not so focused on the numbers because you don't really have anything to compare it to, which I think can be really valuable. But it takes that knowing what your goal is for the session and knowing general rules about setting things up so you're still safe, you're still hitting the target muscles and still accomplishing your goals, even if it's not your normal program. Come on, let's go. Good. Come on. Try. A top set. I've had some shoulder issues lately, so I've pulled back on pressing a lot and haven't had like a straight like overhead press like this for a couple weeks. It's been feeling really good, but I'm definitely not feeling super strong in that position, which is okay. Again, this is a session where it's like there's nothing to compare it to really, so you get in here, you do what feels good, connect with the muscles, play it safe, don't do anything stupid, but it felt good to challenge the position and just kind of see where I'm at. So we're moving on to a reverse banded incline Smith press. Normally, as of right now, in my plan, I only have one press, and so I'm doing this one at a higher incline. Since we hit shoulders first, I'm gonna do it a little bit lower incline today. Keeping the reverse band will keep it lighter in the hole, so you should be able to get out of that lengthened position a little bit more easily. And what's cool about this machine compared to like a normal Smith has like the counterbalance, so you're kind of like pushing against the actual balance as well. This one moves really smoothly because it's just like a bar with guides. So really excited to hit this one. I lost my fly path.
Drive. Yes, come on. There you go. Yep, got it.
Come on. Yep. Drive.
So with this, one thing you'll see Olivia's doing here is she's arching slightly. Now it's not a full power lifter arch, but if you drive your sternum up, you're actually stretching the pecs more. And so especially if you have problems using shoulders in any sort of pressing movement, if you focus on driving the sternum up, you'll use more pec. Drive, yes. Pretty good, man. You know, going to a different gym, you never know where you're at. So try to play it safe. Besides that, it felt pretty good. I'm a huge fan of this movement with that band on it, just because, like Liz was saying, you can really overload the top and you're a lot safer in the stretch. So just with having some previous pec injuries, being safe in that stretch just feels more comfortable, so you can drive harder.
Definitely a challenge after doing a press right before this. And now everything lightens up a bit. We're gonna go to cable lateral raises, so a little bit more side delt work, and then we'll end with a bit of tricep work. So we've been setting up these lateral raises a little bit differently lately. We had them running like in front of the body, but you really need to start from about here to have the lateral delt engaged. I really like this setup where we have it running behind the body and you're kind of at this angle in between like a front raise and a lateral raise, because you're able to keep that forward driving intention that actually keeps your upper arm more in alignment with your torso, which is how you're gonna contract the lateral delt. But it's like you can keep your trap out of it a bit more because of that angle where you're running behind your body. So I really like these to keep the focus in the delt a little bit less in the trap. And I feel that like less binding and tension in that like anterior delt / like pec insertion over time by kind of switching the angle of these. Moving on to some triceps. Really pretty classic layout for like a push day. You usually won't want to start with triceps if you're really focused on growing like chest and shoulders. Ending with some triceps, you're always going to get a little bit of tricep volume on presses. Just going to end with some push downs, do some dips, and then we'll finish out with stretch position, do some either a cable fly or a pec deck. So I'm going to run through these last few pretty quick. Finish up here. So one thing to note on the lineup with this is you want the cable in like a parallel line with the tricep. So if you look from like this side angle, you can see how they're in alignment together, and you're never getting to the point where you're going underneath the cable and like coming back out in an arc. That'll keep more tension in the triceps, but you really need to lock your elbows into your sides to keep it there. In terms of like setup on these, he's been having some issues in his pec, so I'm loading it at the stretch, which makes it a little bit heavier in that stretch position, whereas he's loading it the opposite, so it's gonna be heavier in the contracted position, just kind of protect that pec. So that would kind of be the difference here. I do like to use this one to train the stretch position because a lot of tricep work is going to be training that shortened. But you need to go based on joint health. That's always going to be the priority.
Yep.
So finishing out the session with training the chest in stretch position, I like to do a little bit of a higher line of pull, so it's like more in line with the upper chest fibers and like anterior delt, which I need more of. Like I'm not gonna need a lot of like mid pec fibers as much being in figure, but this can help with shoulder development and just building that like really full front delt look. Really, you don't have to go super heavy on a stretch position, especially in your last movement. So just kept it pretty light, high rep here. And I really like using a bench as opposed to doing these standing because you're just more stable. And as you start to fatigue on standing, you're gonna start to lean into it more, use a little bit more momentum through the torso. So this just keeps it really locked in when you're pretty fatigued. It's a good way to finish the session. Push day is done, we've hit everything. Feeling pretty fried.